The Graphic Histories Podcast.
I got bitten by a radioactive bug. I tried an experimental drug. Went up for a stroll on a gamma testing range. I found an enchanted hurricane. I made a serum that made me small. I modified the serum so it would make me tall. Radioactive isotope in my eyes. Dying alien helped me accessorize. I gained the proportion and strength of a spider. Now I'm invincible and I can fly. I lost my sight, my other senses were heightened. I'm gonna put on my pajamas and go fight crime.
Hey there, and welcome to the Graphic Histories Podcast. My name is André, your podcast host. Big thanks to Luca the Mock for our theme song, Superpowers. And big thanks to you, gentle listener, for tuning in once again to another action-packed, fun-filled show. Today I talk with Vladimir Popov, a comic book creator, most notably a colorist who has worked on many, many big projects for many big companies. He's also pursuing a Ph.D. With a thesis on, and eventually turning into a book on the history of comic book superheroes in North America. So I didn't know about that going into the conversation. It comes out towards the end and we get into a big talk about that. So he has some very interesting insight, and I'm very excited to see that. As I mentioned in the talk, it's very cool to see people from other countries, Europeans, Asians, whatever, commentating and noticing things about how we in North America consume comics. And it's kind of interesting to get that sort of look at it through a different lens, through someone else who has different experiences than those of us who are living within it. So it was a very cool conversation, and a great chat with a great creator. So we have big thanks to Vladimir for coming on the show. Very happy to have him on. Davin is hit another one out of the park. My good friend Davin Skellhorn, who is my co-host in the X-Men Anime Review Show podcast, X-Rated. He secured this guest, and as always, it was a great chat and great conversation. Thank you, Davin, for doing it. If you do listen to that podcast, you may have noticed that we talked at length about the new Superman movie, which I loved so much. I do talk about it with Vladimir in this episode as well. I know my hopes were high, and I heard somebody say that it was a good movie, but like perhaps people really want it to be. I think Hanif said it on our other podcast that some people really wanted to like it, so kind of like shined it up a little more than it may be if you're looking at it with a more discerning eye. But knowing what the superhero genre is as far as films go, and knowing what I wanted my Superman movie to be, at least what I wanted not going in with expectations about what I want the story to be or the plot or anything like that, but just going in with the version of the character that I wanted to see. Basically, my ideal version of Superman is the attitude of the All-Star Superman character, and also pretty much my favorite version of Luthor is the All-Star version of Luthor, and I feel like both versions of those characters are on full display in this movie. That Luthor represents the best of the worst of humanity, or the worst of the best of us, really, in the people that are smart, intelligent, strong, achieve so much but are still held back by petty human emotions like jealousy and greed. And Superman, of course, being a paragon of good, at least trying to do good, messing up, but rising above that. You know, he is really the most human, and that does come up in the movie. But doing all of that, showing that, going into all these sort of nuanced ways to explore the immigrant experience, and how important it is in this modern world with a lot of the things that come with it, to really emulate, to cherish, to spread empathy, kindness, and to value life above all else. And I feel like this Superman radiates that from start to finish of the movie, and I really liked it. It was super fun. The world, like, we kind of joined the world that's already lived in, not really needing to spend a lot of time on the origin, which is great, and we kind of just get right into the story. And it's fantastic. Guy Gardner's fantastic. Mr. Terrific's great. Hawkgirl's fun. Lois Lane is great. Jimmy, the whole crew. We don't see, because it's a big movie with a big cast, you don't get super deep, nuanced versions of them all, but I'm sure that'll come, hopefully, as the franchise goes on. But man, I really loved it. I think it was exactly what we need in this time. A good, bright, hopeful Superman that brings the joy, brings the hope, and protects life. And we got it, and I'm super happy. So I believe it's doing quite well in the box office, which is good, meaning that we may get more of it. So I'm very excited about that. And yeah, just happy that I have a great Superman movie that I can finally look to be the version of Superman I want to see on the big screen. In fairness, the Christopher Reeve ones I never watched. From what I understand, 1 and 2 are pretty great, and that the diminishing returns essentially after that. But I do have the 4K box set, so I will watch them all eventually, at least 1 and 2. And I do have the Donner cut of 2, which I'll probably watch because I hear it's better. So yeah, I'm looking forward to watching those and getting my hopeful Superman back on with that. But yeah, I'm just even more excited for what's to come with the DCU on a larger scale. So looking forward to all that, and super happy this movie exists. And now that expectation has been met, the looming expectation of the Fantastic Four movie remains. So I will be very eagerly awaiting the release of that movie, which is only about a week away at time of recording this. So I'm very excited to check that out. I'm also very excited to see Eddington, which is the new Ari Aster movie. Ari Aster did Hereditary, Midsommar, and Beau is Afraid, 3 movies that I love deeply. So I'm very excited to see his new offering, which is kind of a sort of a nightmare version. Well, I guess COVID was a nightmare version, but it's a more sort of a take on people going through COVID in a small town in Texas, I believe, and it looks awesome. His movies have such a good job of turning everything into the deeply human emotions into these sort of escalating feelings of dread that just get worse and worse to the point that you almost feel like relieved when the horrible things happen to the characters, because you're like, finally, I don't have to worry about it anymore. But the movie's great. His movies are fantastic, so I'm looking even more forward to this. As much as I hope you are looking forward to my chat with Vladimir Popov. Do you like that segue? He's pretty good. Yeah, it's a great conversation, great chat. Haven't talked to many colorists, so it was really great to talk to someone that sort of focuses on that. He does illustrate and write and do all the other stuff too, but a lot of his work in the mainstream has been in coloring, and we get into a talk about that and some of the nuances of that, which is great because it's a very important part of comic book creation. The inker, the colorist, all things that I feel like if you're deep in the comic world, you celebrate. But if you're sort of on the outskirts or you're a casual fan, you probably miss and don't give as much thought to as you should, because it's all part of a perfect whole when the comic comes together and it does a good job. And the ones that Popoff works on certainly do. So here it is, my chat with comic colorist Vladimir Popov.
It's going good.
Yeah.
Finishing working stuff. It's a little bit of heat wave here in East Europe, so
And
it's doing okay.
where exactly are you located?
Serbia.
Oh, right. Wow. So it's a heat wave there, is it?
Yeah.
Wow. That's I'm in Canada and Nova Scotia,
Oh,
but and it's also quite warm here. Although today is like kind of an off day. It's like it finally gave us a bit of a reprieve. It's usually very humid because we're like so right by the ocean, but thankfully today it's been a little cooler and not quite so hot. But the last few days have been brutal.
nice.
Nice. Well, Serbia, I have no frame of reference for Serbia, so I'm assuming you grew up there originally.
Yeah,
That
born
is
and
home.
raised there. Yeah.
Yeah, and what was childhood like in Serbia?
Most of the time it was good. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, childhood uh, pretty much regular stuff.
Hmm.
We had like a lot of content from West Europe and US.
Hmm.
I actually grew up in Yugoslavia, which is a country that doesn't exist today, but
Hmm.
that's what it's called. So, but yeah, it was okay. I mean, for me personally, it was okay. So,
Nice. Well, what was like? Where did you discover comics as a kid? In
um, when I was pretty young, I think like 4 or 5, we had Disney Comics.
ah,
So that was like a Disney Comics, Spider-Man and Superman cartoons, and Asterix cartoons. Those
ah.
are like the first steps toward the popular culture and the usual, I guess.
Were these like the Disney Gold Key comics, or like when Disney like Adventures was there to put out those
Uh,
magazine books that had like all the different.
it's kind of like the magazine. You had like a bunch of short stories. Like one was
Mhm.
with Mickey, then the other was like Black Spot, and the one was like Duffy and you know the the the, the Uncle Scrooge.
Mhm.
So it was kind of like a mixture. It was like a weekly Mickey's magazine that came
Mhm.
out like every Wednesday, and then you had like the anthology trades that were like
Yeah,
fat books. Like you had like longer stories and all of that. Those were like
that's cool.
special. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had a few people I talk to that are over in Europe, and Asterix always shows up. That or Tintin usually always comes up in the discussion, which is something that has obviously made its Tintin definitely has made its way over here. Asterix has, but I don't feel like it's as mentioned as much as some of the other ones. But then you look up, there's like all these movies and stuff, like European movies that are based on it that like I've
Yeah.
never seen, even referenced or discussed. So it's like one of those things that's such a big part of the comic history of one part of the world that like in the North American area is not discussed as much. But I mean, in the certain circles.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Europeans Europeans have their own production. The Italians have their own production.
Hmm.
French and Belgians have their own production. But we also imported a lot of from US. So in Serbia or Yugoslavia at the time,
Hmm.
particular, we had a little bit of production, local production, a little bit through licensing stuff, but we imported everything. Like we had Marvel comics, we had French comics, we had Italian comics. So I basically grew up on reading a lot of those different schools of comics, and I had the access to all of it. So
Nice.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but it was a good time for a comic book kid here.
Yeah.
We didn't have everything like you had the guys in the US or in French because through licensing, but it was a mixture.
Yeah.
But when it comes to importing back to US, Asterix made it nicely. Tintin made it through comics and the movie with Spielberg.
Hmm.
I think there is like a English version of Corto Maltese of a
Hmm.
comic book and cartoon as well. And Lucky Luke was one of the most famous European as well. Like I think he also had a comics and cartoon back to US. And now they're Smurfs now.
Yes, right. Yes, of course. One of the ones that I'm a fan of, and I can't remember exactly where it is originally made from. I want to say it's French. Is Black Sad? Um,
Yeah, it's French. It's a recent one
yeah,
from
or
like
Spanish.
20,
Spanish. It's Spanish.
Spanish.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because I mean, that had a video game on the PlayStation, so I was like, oh, that's cool. Like they've actually like made it far enough to get out there. Um, where did you buy comics? Like, were there comic stores? Is it just what you could find on a rack at like community stores, or?
We were buying comics in the bookstores,
Mhm.
in the small how do you call them, like small street kiosks.
Yep. Oh, the newsstands.
So yeah, the
Yep.
newsstands. We were buying them on the newsstands. We still can buy them on the newsstands up to today.
Hmm.
And now we have some chain bookstores and mall stuff and online stuff. So like it's still pretty much alive. But back in the day, mostly newsstands. Yeah.
Wow, that's super cool.
Yeah.
When did you, like, as a kid, did you think, as getting into them and reading them and kind of doing the deep dive into the comic options that were available, were you always feeling like this was something you wanted to do? Were you drawing right away?
Well, when I was like a kid, like 7 or 8 years, I was
Hmm.
like, the idea came like maybe I could like do something like maybe
Hmm.
I would like to draw. Like if you're a kid, you're reading and it's cool, and you're like, "Dang, I'd like to do something like this," and as a kid, and then you start scribbling something. But that was like the first steps, nothing too serious. You're still dedicated to school and all of that.
Hmm.
But eventually, when I entered in puberty around 14, 15 years, then I had like the idea I would like to like do arts,
Hmm.
more serious, maybe go into high school of high school and to study art. But I didn't go to arts high school. I went to engineering high school.
No, okay.
Yeah, and then I ended up in arts at college, at
Hmm.
university, but later in education. Like the graduate education was then later for civil engineering, then IT.
Hmm.
But comics were always like part of me, like, and I kind of like studied parallel, you know.
Mm,
The best way to learn comics was to actually read them and to draw them. And if you could get ahead of a few books on comics, like for example, learn to draw the Marvel way was a
mhm.
useful one,
Yes, yeah.
which was the basic one. And then, you know, like interviews with the people, but those were done only in Wizard magazines
Mhm.
back in the day. So I'm 42 now, so 25 years I was like 18. So
Mm.
in 2000 and 2000s, you weren't had have much of material to learn. So basically, it was like, you know, dissecting other people's art. You know, like
Mm. Well,
how
that's
did Alex yeah, how
uh,
did Alex Ross do that, or how did Michael Turner do that, or how Mobius, like why he put that dot there and that kind of stuff.
yeah, I find that with art and studying like old artists, it's like you could really drive yourself nuts by that. You're like, why is that? You know, there's always, and it's funny because if you could talk to the artist, they'd probably just be like, oh, it just it worked out that way or whatever. But when you're kind of studying them, you're just so intricate into it. Um, so yeah, like civil engineering and all that, like was that like something that was a passion as well, or is that something your folks were like, take your art and kind of find a
Folks,
way to, yeah,
folks.
yeah. I don't want to always blame the parents when it comes to this, but sometimes it seems like when I talk to artists and stuff, like their career path trajectory kind of always goes, not always, but very often goes towards something that's safe and then back to art because the parents kind of wanted them to do.
No, no, they were encouraging of my art skill. Like they're like, okay, you
Hmm.
know, we'll get you some comics. My dad had a friend who had like a huge collection of comics that he was collecting from Yugoslavia. There was a special kind of magazine here that collected like was like kind of like an anthology
Hmm.
weekly magazine that got licensing stuff. So there was like
Oh.
eight hundred copies of numbers or something like that. So it was like 50 years or something like
Hmm.
long trajectory. So my dad was like, okay, we'll get you the comics to read, you know, because you like it, but you gotta go to the school, you know, like
Hmm.
you gotta go there. This is like a solid, you know, career. If you don't go to college, you'll have something in your hand. So that was the logistics.
Cool. All right. Right on.
So I was like, you
Uh,
know, juggling the things like hobby, passion, and like, you know, doing school.
yeah, well, that's generally how it goes. And also, I see the Vitruvian Man behind you, and also your Leonardo da Vinci T-shirt. So,
Yeah,
there's obviously a bit of overlap between those sort of are the artistic and the sort of functionary,
yeah.
especially. Are you like a big fan? I assume. I'm assuming if you have that in your home and on your shirt.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
like Leonardo's work, but this is a present for my aunt that it's kind of like a drapery on the wall.
Mm,
She got me that. She lived in Italy and she was a fan of Leonardo as well. So she's like, "This is cool, you know, here's
that's
for
awesome.
yeah, here's a birthday present." So I was
Well,
like, "Okay, yeah,
that's cool. Listen. You talked about the sort of education system because, like, most people in our area, it's sort of like you go to a high school. Like the idea that you have high schools that are specific to art or to engineering or to all those other things is, you get to that when you go to university or college. But the idea that the high school options are available for you there for those things is very unique in our area.
yeah,
They exist, but they're not like as common. So it's neat that the people have so many options when it comes to your education, especially when it comes to the arts as well. I always feel like Europeans kind of have a more uh, um, appreciation for art a lot bigger than it seemingly North Americans do, in my opinion. That's
well, you know that they kind of do because it's the old continent.
mm,
I just got back this week. I was in Brussels and then I went to Paris and then I went to Louvre.
oh wow,
So when you go there and you stand in front of a painting that is like a 7 meters tall. I don't know how much that is in inches, but
I know meters.
yeah. So 7 meters tall and 10
Yeah.
meters wide, and 500 years old,
Hmm.
and you're just like, standing there like looking, you know, and it's huge, and you don't know where to look. Like it's kind of
Hmm.
like a you gotta appreciate it. Like it's overwhelming a little, you know.
Oh
So
yeah,
you
yeah.
that take that in and like you contemplate about it, like how did they do that kind of work? Like, and the guy who painted was an Italian who was like who painted that for a whole year.
Mm,
So
yeah.
back in the day, like 500 years ago. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
Like
bit different here in Europe than in US in that manner. But
Well, I feel like with time, right? Like you look at things that have been around so long. Like I was recently in Montreal, in Quebec, and obviously there's some very old cities there and areas of Montreal that are old, and like some very old churches that have been around for, not quite as long as some of the ones in Europe have been, but since, the basic first settlements here in Canada. And you look at like the architecture and the amount of time, like and the the mosaics on the ceiling or the murals that are the tapestries and all this stuff, and like the amount of time and effort and like every little tiny nuance that has survived for centuries. It's insane. Like it's a beautiful testament to art and to like human ingenuity, and it's kind of awe-inspiring when you're standing there in the presence of it. And even just going, like, I like going to art galleries when I'm in a new city and stuff, and just standing in front of like a Picasso or something and just sort of like looking at it and seeing all of the little nuanced details and stuff is it's such a it's hard not to be overwhelmed, I think. There's like a condition, I can't remember, it's called Stendhal syndrome, which apparently is something that exists where you, in the presence of like really good art, you are like you lose control of your faculties. Like you obviously you pass out. You're like overwhelmed so much by art that you can't handle it. So I always find that kind of a very interesting sort of like I think that we all have a little bit of that, but I feel like with some people, for some reason, in their brains, it just can't handle it and they shut down. But
Yeah,
yeah, wow, that's super neat. So
yeah.
when did you start drawing the comics? Like when did that come around? Like actually get comic work?
The professional kind of work, the one that pay bills.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, I'm sure if there's some that like little ones you put out there or like some projects you worked on that
Uh,
got you noticed first, whatever that would have been.
I think that happened like in the fall of 2010, actually.
Hmm.
But during my college years from 2001 and up till 2010, like those 10 years, like I wasn't, I was always like scribing something, like exploring, reading, but when you were, uh, I was, I wasn't drawing much that time. I was just more like a spectator and like
Hmm.
digesting. But the first paid work came in October 2010 for for a small press company from Ohio called Broken Icon Comics, and that's how I actually started. Like I I was Googling, how to get a gig, how to figure out that how to, as they like to say, break into
Hmm.
comics
Yes, yes, yeah. That's usually
from
the
the
way it's worded. Yeah.
yeah, from the different continent, because I had the internet and the Facebook was catching up and I was starting to connect to people, and so I could show portfolio. And the Google showed me the digital webbing message board website,
Mm.
which at the time was the one who was the strongest one on connecting the artists, writers, and comic book folks,
Hmm.
for both paid and unpaid gigs. And through that website, I actually got scouted by one of the guys from Broken Icon Comics, and then they liked my portfolio, they offered me some projects. That's how we started. That was like pretty low key, like, indie, like a small page rate, like slow production, like, garage making comics type of thing
Hmm.
for the first year and a half. And then I connected to some editors through Facebook, particularly with the old owner of Boom Studios, Ross Ritchie, and a few more editors. And then I literally like typed like, okay, how can I get in contact with you guys? Like I like your work, like I like to show you. And he's like, well, here's the way how you can connect. And he sent me some links and emails, and I sent them a few mine. Like I think that happened like January 2012, and then like a few months later, like March or April, one of the editors got back on an email. An email came like, "We would like you to do some test pages for Hellraiser."
Wow. Did you
Yeah.
always have an affinity for horror stuff, or is it just like did just your style kind of lent towards that?
I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know how they pinpoint me for Hellraiser, but they sent me the pages. I knew the books, I
Property.
knew the
Yeah.
movies, and I played even that video game. I think it's called Undying from
Oh
Clive
yeah.
Barker. So that was earlier. So I was familiar with his universe and all of that, and I already did some horror stuff before, like the in comics, some zombie
Hmm.
stuff. Sounds Zombie for that small price.
Did you like
So,
horror? Like, was that something that you grew up liking, or is it just kind of worked that way? Like infinity
um,
towards that genre?
both.
Yeah.
I mean, like you gotta like a little bit. I really enjoyed the B slasher movies.
Oh
Like
yeah, yeah.
when I was younger, like those. But some good, more like the uncanny horror than like the psychological horror, like
hmm
the monster stuff. So
Well,
that was
Barker
interesting.
always lived in a unique space there, right? Because it
Yeah,
always sort of like it was deeper than just getting ripped apart. It was like almost a question of your soul on top of your your body getting shredded,
yeah,
and these sort of this weird line between pleasure and pain and all that stuff. So he kind of always went into a weirder, headier sort of space with it.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
totally. Like his books of blood are really like psychologically difficult to read. Like that wasn't an easy read
yeah.
ever. But Hellraiser, like monster stuff, not so much. Psychologically, yeah, and no, but books of blood are much heavier in my
Mhm.
opinion.
Yeah.
So that's how I got, and then that was the first one that came out okay, and then Boom offered me to work on Steed and Miss Peel, the Avengers, the British Avengers.
hmm
So that came later, and then after that for like the next few years, I worked really close with Boom Studios, and around 2013, I got into contact with Italian artist Andrea Muti, who is a great friend and great artist. And we did a book for Dynamite Comics called Noir with Victor Gischler who wrote it. It was kind of like a pulp comics book that had like uh, Shadow, Miss Fury, and I think Black Sparrow characters, and it's in kind of like a Indiana Jones adventure with
hmm
pulp stuff and
Awesome.
some old school hero superheroes.
Nice.
So that was a really fun project. That was one of my favorite projects up to this day that I worked on, and really enjoyed that one. And
When
after
I
that kind of like went up and
When well, you
connections.
worked on the like the Steed and Peel thing must be interesting because it's like it's a property, but not one that's like I wouldn't say it's one that has a dogged fan base that are like you can have
Which
fun
one?
with it. The Steed and Peel books, uh, Steed and Mrs. Peel, those ones.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Steven Spiel.
Because like I remember, I think it was Grant Morrison or something, or somebody like that did some of those books when they sort of started coming back around many years ago, and it might have been Garth Ennis, so somebody that was and I remember like getting into them and thinking they're really fun because it's like a property that exists, but not one that the average younger comic fan would like. They're not going to come to you and be like, "This doesn't match the show," because most that they the most people that watched that growing up would have been English people like in the '60s,
Yeah,
so they're
yeah.
quite a bit old. So it must have been interesting, kind of getting to approach that. I also wanted to ask you about just because what I have many jobs, and one of them is I'm a professional wrestler. So I saw you worked on an Undertaker comic. I was just wondering
I did,
what
yeah.
that experience was like.
That was an interesting experience because I really enjoyed the WrestleMania from the Sega Mega Drive video game console from the 90s.
Oh
Like,
yes, yeah, oh yeah,
uh,
yeah.
so that was like, and a few wrestling shows, and also I grew up watching Hulk Hogan's movies more than his
Of course,
wrestling.
yeah, oh yeah,
Suburban Commando and
yeah. Mr. Nanny.
Thunder, Mr. Nanny, and what was the purple boat, the Thunder Cloud, I think.
It'll come to me in a minute. But yes, I know the one you're talking about. It was
It had like a two parts or three. I cannot
Date, not
remember.
Days of Thunder, something with Thunder. Yeah, it was they're like action movies from the '90s. I can't remember
Yeah.
this. Yeah, something Thunder. Yeah.
It's a little bit like the borderline B production, but it
Oh
was
yeah.
like nice. But Suburban Commando was the best.
Thunder in Paradise. That's what it's called.
There
Yeah,
we go. Yeah.
yeah. '94.
So
Uh,
that was my connection to wrestling.
mhm. Well, Undertaker was in Suburban Commando, so very
Yeah,
briefly, he's one of
yeah,
the alien henchmen there.
yeah.
So is that like this when dealing with something like that? I assume that Boom has to like clear everything by WWE. I was just curious what that like if you had any connection to like if they're like draw this better, that this doesn't represent our talent or anything to that effect. Like, was there any sort of input by them that was kind of interesting?
No, I did not have like my part of work was pretty clear. Like
hmm
everything was greenlit almost immediately. Maybe there was like maybe one or two revisions that were like something technical,
hmm
but regarding like the characters and everything else, everything went
Oh,
pretty
that's awesome.
smoothly
Super
for
fun.
me.
Because
Yeah, I wasn't coloring the whole book. I was like, because it was like anthology of a few short stories. I think I was only partially like I had like maybe half of the book or something like that.
mhm.
It
Oh,
wasn't
okay.
all my work.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess working on all those projects, like you worked in the Star Wars world as well. That
Yeah,
must have
that was the
been,
latest one.
yeah. Oh, so that's your latest work. Okay. I mean, we can jump over, I suppose. So is that also something that's like a big thing to jump through? Like, as far as like, I always feel like with these big properties, because I've talked to some people that have worked on different, uh, you know, um, I'm blanking on the word, but like IPs. That's it for certain things, like X-Files or Hardy Boys or these things where they have like these big things are connected to them that you have to like adhere to certain things to make them go smoothly. And I imagine they don't get much bigger than Star Wars or like, Marvel Studios or something, but I think Star Wars is probably a massive one as far as like, having to keep everything in check, make sure you don't miss
Yeah.
anything.
Well, Star Wars is a really special kind of a franchise to work
Hmm.
within, and I did had like a lot of things that I needed to check in.
Hmm.
Uh, but also I'm a huge fan of it, and I've been digesting Star Wars for like, ever since the 90s, through video games, through comics, through movies, through TV shows, and even novels. So I was quite familiar with, what to do there. It wasn't really a problem for me. I was like, okay, uh, let's see what they need. They gave me the list. It has to be like all ages because it was an all ages book. It has to
Hmm.
look different than Marvel because it's different licensing.
Hmm.
So it has different aesthetics from Marvel and the other. Um, like it should have my own artistic seal. It should look a little bit like Star Wars from the 80s to have that retro feel because they liked Al Williamson,
Hmm.
which was cool. But Andrea did a different approach. Al Williamson's artwork was much more had that kind of like edginess and
Hmm.
energy and a lot more black because it was done in the 80s when they all made art for black and white printing because the printing technology and coloring technology wasn't that developed as it is now.
Hmm.
So those were the challenges, how to make the art that has a lot more white on the page look retro, look, similar to the 80s because you have to compensate. And then again, I worked on a Jedi story, so you cannot just go full blast on with saturation and all
Hmm.
kind of weird colors because those colors in a book represent the emotions and feelings of a Jedi, and Jedi
Hmm.
have like their strict code. So I had to, so I was rereading the Jedi book again. I read it like first time when it came out, I think like 2010 or something like that.
Hmm.
So I went back into that to see, you have to find some sort of a balance because that subconsciously transfers to the readers like, okay, this is like emotional response of a Jedi. How's that gonna translate into the page? So those are
Hmm.
some of the challenges that I had like to figure out how to, like I said, the sweet challenges, like
Yeah.
you do the research of the material, dive again, get yourself a reason to watch something again.
Yeah. Nice to have an excuse. Well,
Yeah.
it's kind of unique. It's great chatting with you because I haven't had many people. There's a lot of artists that work in coloring and stuff too that I've had on, but like talking to mostly specific colorists is really neat in making the choices when it comes to like getting into that. As someone who does a little art myself, some little comics and stuff. Obviously, and I'm a graphic designer. Is my normal job. So like, obviously color plays such a huge a part of all the work, like everything. But it's one of those things I don't think people take into account as often as they should when appreciating how great art can be, especially this combined art that is like comics. It's funny because when it worked out that we're going to get a chance to talk to you, I was looking through some of your work, and I remember noticing when I read the Next Testament comics, I got that years ago.
Oh,
I think I thought it was something else when it came out. So I ordered it, but then I read the first issue and was like, oh, this is what I thought it was. But then I read it and I really enjoyed it, so I kept going and read the whole thing. Because the color in that is so unique and interesting and kind of depicting this sort of otherworldly God in the way you do, but instead of making it like I'm assuming this was input from the writer from as well, but like the idea that instead of often when they show these ancient beings, gods, they're so dark and it's very Cthulhu-esque, it's Lovecraftian. But to go the other way and make them almost like so bright and colorful and almost like it's super saturated, it almost made it otherworldly and in a whole opposite direction, which is very cool. Like usually when you see things that depict these sort of ideas, they usually always stick in the dark realm. But the idea that you went the other way and say, well, of course, why wouldn't these energy beings, gods, creatures be made of bright colors? And it almost made it more disturbing because it's like to read a horror book where the guy is so bright and it's not like he's going to come out of the shadows. He's literally a kaleidoscope of colors coming at you. It's just such an interesting. I guess how much input did you have in that choice, or is that purely the writer, or is it somewhere in between?
Well, that one in particular was my design actually.
Oh wow, okay, awesome. Well, kudos, dude. That was
Uh,
fantastic. Yeah.
because I was brought on issue 5. First 4 issues colors were done by the artist,
Hmm.
and they were like okay-ish, but the design of the character wasn't that good.
Hmm.
So when they brought me in, I kind of did an redesign of the whole character. I solidified all the colors. So, one hand was green, the other one was blue. The colors on the face had like a specific place. So I kind of did a coloring redesign. And what I did was like I toned the saturation based how angry the character was. So when he was super angry, I busted up the saturation so the colors would really pop.
Hmm.
And when
Like
he
a
was
light
like,
bulb.
yeah, like a
That's
chilling
awesome.
down a little, like colors won't be so saturated. So that was my idea, and that's how I created the color scheme for the rest. And
Mm.
then it was up to until issue 12. I don't know why they decided to go with the artist again, and that changed the whole color scheme of the book and the whole issue. So I think it kind of like it didn't do really well with the book,
Mm.
in my opinion. I think it
What
would be much better if they hold me on the last issue, but I mean, it's still readable. So
does it
because it,
frustrate you that you don't have the continuity of that? Like when you look at some books that like have,
yeah,
yeah.
for me personally, yeah, because the color was quite important because the god was based on coloring,
Mm.
So when you shift that kind of stuff uh, in a book, you feel you change the tone. It's like it's like when we're watching color movie, and then all of a sudden, like next scene is black and white, but it's not because it's a flashback, it's just black and white.
Mm.
So it shifts completely. It lacks that consistency in the story, but that was like, more than 10 years ago. So the times in comic books were a bit different 10 years
Mm.
ago than they are today. So the production, all of that was like, you know, it lacks some of the art direction seriousnesses. So
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things that I don't know. Maybe it's just self-perceived because of ignorance on my part, but like you wonder how much when it comes to putting these projects together, how much thought goes into these things sometimes. And I often feel like some things are just almost disposable to some of these things when they make plans that that shouldn't be. Like, there's so many details in comics that when they really hit in all cylinders, it's so great. And sometimes I feel like some things are like, oh, well, anyone could do that, go do that. And it's like not necessarily, right? Like there's reasons why people are as good at their job as they are and why they really bring certain things to the forefront, like inkers and colorists are so important. It for that reason, there's so many aspects that enhance the art that I feel like people overlook, and I think it's such a key part to comics in general that they should certainly pay attention to the people that are doing those parts of the projects too, because the project, it's a product of a lot of disparate pieces that come together to make a whole. Do you have like working on like Bravest Warriors or something like that? Is that like because do you when projects come across your lap, or is it something that's like you're like, okay, I just worked on this like super dark horror book, so I'm really excited to like work on something bright and colorful for this? Or do you approach everything with a new sort of lens, or is it always just sort of kind of run through depending on the project?
uh I kind of like well, depends on the project,
Hmm.
because Bravest Warriors was a licensing project, and I was brought into as a fill-in for
Oh,
that one.
okay.
I I had to I think maybe I don't remember if main colorist was sick, so somebody had to replace or something like that.
Hmm.
But they just called me and said like we have several pages. Can you fill in? I was like, okay.
So you would
Uh,
have to match what the other guy had done up to that
yeah.
point, I
So
assume, right? So,
basically, that was like, okay, this is
mhm.
the reference. So we
Yeah.
need this style to be matched. So that was it. That was like a fill-in job. So kind of like you put your professional craft to service the licensing
Mhm.
project and the end product. So
Yeah.
completely different approach than like when you start a licensing project from the beginning or when you do create your own. So
Mm.
fill-in projects also requires a specific kind of technical skill
Hmm.
for you. On one side, it's not super creative, like it's like okay, I'm just doing something. On the other side, it's easier because you don't have to think about anything.
Yeah.
Everything is solved. So basically, just do a technical role to fill in the pages with continuity.
Hmm.
So in that way, it was an interesting experience to have. So yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, yeah, I imagine with like Adventure Time or some of those other, the Gumball book, which looks like a fun kid's book.
Gumball book, yeah, Gumball
Yeah,
book. I worked, I think, like the whole book. Yeah,
it's got to be
there
fun
I
to
had
kind of
some.
open up with bright colors and get to play in that world.
Yeah, well, it's a kid book. So when you work like a young adult and kid books, there are some different rules to apply. You go simpler coloring, brighter, cheerful. And if it's a licensing story, you check that out. So I was checking cartoons, I was checking some other books. So to fill in, it's different when you go and work an adult Vertigo style book that has some difficult topic and
Yeah, yeah,
dark, gory, serious art and whatnot. So it requires different approach, but
awesome.
that's the part of the experience and that's part of the fun. You get to learn and to grow and develop as an artist as well because
Mm.
it's a new challenge.
Yeah, for sure. What is I guess talking about the practical part of your gig, like what's your process? What do you use? Like what programs,
Mm.
what methods do you color?
I've used for a long period of time. I was on a Wacom tablet,
Hmm.
and then I switched to Huion tablet 2 years ago on a smaller. Where I had like an old Wacom tablet that is
Hmm.
22 inches. It's like kind of like sits here in the studio next out off panel
Hmm.
as a backup, just in case with the old iMac computer.
Hmm.
But the main workstation is MacBook Pro from 2023 and Huey 16-inch tablet wide that I bought 2 years ago when I was in US. And I'm really satisfied with Huey and tablet so far. And that's the hardware. The software is Photoshop
Okay.
standard and Clip Studio Paint.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people mention Clip Studio. I was old school forever, and then I finally got like and would just try to do it by hand in Photoshop. But then I finally got the drawing tablet, like the iPad Pro
Yeah.
with the pencil and everything, and started exploring. And I don't know, the level of like ease, I guess, like it just takes so many steps out of it and makes it so much simpler and easier to
Yeah.
like get in and do all the stuff. And I keep like exploring the options and brushes and different things you can do with it, which is so cool. It's I can really understand. Like I had the tablet, the Wacom tablet as well, but I could never really get it to work as well as I would have liked to. I just feel like with the big tablets, a lot more, I guess, receptive or responsive to the way that a friend of mine has went all out with it, where he got like the thing that feels like paper that goes on top that when you draw. So I don't need to go that far, but I feel like technology's come so far when it comes to your field that it's sometimes it's hard to keep up.
Yeah. Well, I never had a problem with the change if it's a digital tablet or a paper. I like
Hmm.
to work I like to work on paper when I draw my comics. I do some of the comics on paper,
Yep.
Bristol board and some other mixed media papers for different approaches. So I like to have that in the background, just for the training, the
Hmm.
muscle memory. But when it comes to tablets, the most difficult I had was like using the tablet, like the horizontal tablet where I draw this and watch. Like that took me a lot more brain power. That
Mm.
to synchronize hand, and like you don't look at your hand, but you look at the monitor by
Hmm.
doing so.
Yeah.
That's much harder for me than just take the tablet and
Yeah.
just do job on that. So there I have no problem. Like, but that's like simultaneous, like synchronicity is like pretty much similar to the paper. But what's different is on paper you don't have undo,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
also the your style is gonna like my style when I job, because I do also jobbing and writing and like the whole I know
Hmm.
all the whole production of comic books, but it's just like I'm filling the role of colorist because that's how things are
Hmm.
sorting out right now. But when it comes to the whole production, it's it's a different feel. Like you have like different kind of my style varies between like paper and digital.
Hmm.
And I don't try personally, I don't try to emulate the paper style that much.
Hmm.
Like I like to keep it separate. And when I draw on digital, I use Clip Studio Paint especially because of their nibs and the pressure and the software, so I can calibrate it to my own sensibility of the line, because I have some specific aesthetics that I like to see for myself. So that's how I approach it. Like I don't want to emulate paper because it's not paper. It's a different medium. Like
Mm.
digital is a different style, different medium. Same as like with when you take I don't know, like when you take acrylic painting and oil painting. That's two different mediums. So you're not going to try to emulate oil painting with acrylics and vice versa. So
Mm.
same
Yeah.
goes with comics and approach when drawing and inking and
Nice.
coloring as well.
Mm. What do
I mean, I
you?
do.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I tried some watercolor approach, but it's in today's day and age, it's nice to do for fun and like maybe for a small personal project, but it's not really like accessible for a longer project. It takes you a lot of time, so you know,
Well, you mentioned Alex Ross earlier, and I was thinking about that, like with his process and what he does, like the amount of time that must go into that must be. I
yeah.
mean, it's the reason why you only see a new book from him every so many years. Probably 'cause it takes that long to get one done. Um,
Well,
but
in Europe, in French, in France, and in Franco-Belgian comic books, like it's between 6 months and 1 year to do a book. You
Mhm.
basically have like a 1 week to do a page, but pages are bigger and like you do them like slower, and everything is traditional most of the
Mhm.
time. So it's a different market than American.
Well, how was working on like the heavy metal book? Because that's something that's obviously like a very uniquely sort of well-known,
Um,
product of the area.
yeah, I worked like on a few short stories in
Hmm.
2018. I think it was a short period of time. Um, it wasn't, I mean, it was nice, but they had some problems with payments that back and then. That was like shortly before they're gonna close it, I think.
Mm.
Uh, I worked on a short story for Ministry heavy metal band, and then on two short stories for Megadeth book.
Cool. That's
And
really fun.
uh, yeah, and I think I did one for Teenage SD. Those are like short stories for oh yeah, and one short story for some ponies or something like that. Like I did like three or four stories, maybe five, I don't know, back in the day for a very brief moment. Like
Hmm.
it was fun. Like it was like super cool. Editors liked it, and that was it. Like I can say like I worked something for heavy metal.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. It's definitely a feather in the cap of any comic person, right? It's like,
Yeah.
um, well, that and like, there's certain ones that I feel like, depending on your location, there's like to be able to say I had something in that, 2000 AD or like heavy metal or, Marvel DC, whatever. But that's really cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's certainly got a cultural impact, and you can say you're a part of it, so that's also a joy.
Yeah. Plus, I listen to all those bands, so
Mm. Yeah, yeah.
that that
Well, it
was
was like the
okay.
the Megadeth thing must have been fun. That would be an interesting.
Yeah, yeah. It was like two short stories that were related to, I think, two songs. I
Hmm.
cannot remember which ones, but one was like one story was kind of like a melodrama about drummer, and something about
Hmm.
something happened like around family.
Yeah.
And the other one was kind of like maybe political, in the White House something happened, maybe some zombies or something like that. So
That's awesome. That's really, really
yeah.
fun. Well, what are you like? What are you working on nowadays? Like, what's the current projects?
Um, I'm working now for a company called Zero Zero Entertainment.
Hmm.
It's related to music projects.
Oh, okay.
So I'm doing on one project that is kind of like Oriental fantasy. I
Hmm.
cannot say much about that.
Sure.
And I finished like month and a half ago. I finished several short stories for the anthology that comes out from Image like tomorrow, called Dread the Hall H. It's about a Comic Con culture. It's about a horror anthology that happens at the Hall H at San Diego Comic Con.
Oh, really? Wow. I've
Yeah,
never heard of this. That's really cool.
yeah. It comes out tomorrow. I think it's going to be all across US, Canada, and UK comic book shops.
Wow. So what's the like? Is it just who wrote it?
Chris Ryle,
Okay.
who he was the editor in chief for a long time at IDW.
Right, right.
He did
Interesting.
some nonfiction comics and I think he has some his personal publishing company. So
Hmm. Have you
he's been
been
publishing.
have you been to San Diego Comic Con?
No, I haven't made it up to San Diego yet.
No?
I've only made it to New York Comic Con and I did a MegaCon in Florida because I have family there. So when I visited, I I had the opportunity to see that, and that's it. I've been to I made it up to Chicago the most. So
Oh, right on.
there
Well,
you
hey,
go.
this is I haven't been to too much of the States. I've been like Florida, and Vegas and Maine, I think is it for my
Yeah.
New York briefly. It was because we had a flyover or stopover there when we come back from Vegas. But yeah, I'd like to see more of it. Not right now, but at some point in the future, I'd like to go
Yeah.
back. I'd like to hopefully go back and see some more of it. Um,
Well, one of my ideas at some point in the future, maybe like in 10 years or 15 years, I don't
mhm.
know, but it's still on the bucket list, is to do the road trip from east to west, to go like,
Nice.
yeah, that would be like a, 2 months of driving or maybe three, depending
Yeah.
on circumstances.
I thought
But
about that in Canada. I always had this sort of like, because I live right on the eastern tip, right? Like just so to drive from where I am all the way across to Vancouver, you could probably do it in I mean, if you really took your time, you could do it in few like a month, but it would be, a lot of driving if you didn't really stop too much. But I think it'd be fun to like, really stop in every city, go to every major city, check and look around, see some of the sites, and kind of explore it as a whole. In Even go north a bit and see. I've been up there a little bit wrestling in Manitoba, but it'd be cool to go even further and go to the Arctic and some of those areas. So someday.
yeah, yeah, that's probably kind of like, that's like kind of like a retirement material stuff to think about.
Well, it's funny because I don't know if you're like me, but you kind of like look at that someday you sort of romanticize it in this way. It's like, oh yeah, I could just put like a bed in the back of my I have an SUV, so you wouldn't need much. I mean, I'm married, so we'd have to figure that out as far as having room for everybody and everything, or getting a trailer or something. But it's someday you romanticize it. You're like, that'd be so simple. I'm sure that the reality of it would be not quite so much. Trying to find places to bathe and get food and not spend a mountain of time and money and hotels and everything else. But
Yeah, the logistics nightmare.
yeah. Well, that's the beauty of like going to a place like Europe because like my wife and I went to Scotland and Ireland and we did a week in one and a week in another. And like I really like the idea of that because you can kind of like everything's so accessible. Like a plane ride between most of the countries is like $100, like and you can just go like Italy to France to Greece to wherever. Like it'd be really neat to be able to kind of
Yeah,
do that, right? And that's what's cool. And the worlds are so different, right? It's a short travel. I mean, going across Canada and the States would kind of be culturally, it wouldn't shift a lot. I mean, it would, depending, definitely more south. But going there, it's a whole other world. Like, it's an hour plane ride, and you're in a whole other place with a whole other customs, whole other rich history. You can spend a lot of time to sort of exploring all of that, right? So that's kind of the
yeah.
beauty of that.
And also in Europe they have like a really good railroads, so you
Yeah.
can use a train, super fast train, and like I traveled from Brussels to Paris in 1 hour, like 300 kilometers.
Wow.
fast riding train. So like,
Wow,
and
like a
that's
bullet
it.
train. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, bullet train. Yeah.
Yeah, a friend of mine, he's like I would call him frugal, I guess. He definitely doesn't like to spend too much money, but he was like when we were going to Scotland, Ireland, he's like, "Oh, they have like rules there that you can camp anywhere. You can just like go buy a tent and camp the entire time." And I'm like, "I don't think I want to do that."
Yeah.
Just on the side of the road in some rural Scottish village somewhere, just hoping I don't get murdered or something.
And
Not
if you go, I think like in Sweden, I'm not really
Mhm.
sure is it Sweden or Finland, maybe
Mhm.
Finland. Like you can just do sauna wherever
Oh yeah,
because
it's
that's
yeah.
free.
Yeah, like I think there's a show called it was a Travel Man. A friend of mine turned me on to Richard Ayoade is like an English actor. He was in the IT Crowd and a bunch of those other shows. You probably recognize him to see him. He does the show where he goes to a city for like only 48 hours and he usually goes with another celebrity and they try to get everything they possibly can in that amount of time. And I think him and Paul Rudd went to Helsinki in Finland and they were going to all the different saunas. They went to a Burger King and the Burger King had a sauna in it. So like, you're eating your burger just sitting in a towel in like a little sauna room, just the two of them. And yeah, like it really actually kind of does a really good job of showing you like what it's like to go to these places and maybe some of the things you can kind of cram into a very quick visit if you had to do it that way, but also like expand it. But yeah, I'd like to do Italy, mostly because I mean for a lot of reasons, but it's kind of a dumb
You
reason,
you
but
you definitely should. Yeah,
yeah, it's kind of a
highly
dumb re
recommend.
Yeah, really? Okay, awesome. Well, there's a lot of like obviously a lot of reasons for why I'd like to go. One of them is just I'm a big fan of old Italian horror movies, so I think it'd be really fun to like go check out Dario Argento's like store. They have like a store that just sells a bunch of his stuff and stuff like that. So, um,
Sergio Leone Western.
oh yeah, yeah, that would be
The spaghetti
absolutely.
Western.
Well, even like those old like Suspiria and those old goblin scored horror movies. There's so many of those. And all these ridiculous titles like The Killer reserved 9 seats. Like that's the title of our horror movie. It's so great. Don't torture a duckling. Like what that's a title of a movie,
Yeah,
you know.
I think like Bud Spencer was like, and he had like a series of movies that like I think Sergio Leone actually directed, like also that were set in Italy, I think.
Hmm. Yeah.
So that
Oh
was
yeah, 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 yeah. I think you're
it's
right.
kind of like action adventure comedy, but they were still like had that BACD production.
Well, I kind of like am sort of enamored with like is it Charlie Band's movies like Full Moon Pictures they did like because I think he bought like is it Dino De Laurentiis's castle or something in Italy and he just like lived there for a while and turned into like a production studio for many years I think before he couldn't keep up with how much it cost to keep a castle or a whole like
Oh
area
yeah.
kind of done but so the idea of like just all that stuff it's really cool and unique and fun. um Oh, it's very, very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anything else coming up you want to discuss, or any other projects in the go that you've?
Well, I can tell you that it's not on a it's related to comics, but it's not actual comic.
Mhm.
It's an academic book on comic books. I'm writing a PhD
Oh,
thesis on
wow,
American
cool.
comics. Yeah, so that's
Wow.
something that I've been doing for past 2.5 years. It's been a process,
I'm
because
just
I yeah,
American comics specifically.
American comics. Yeah,
Oh, wow. Okay.
production and reception of superhero character in American comics.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. It's funny. I bought the book, but I also was like going on a lot of trips this summer. So, I think I got the Audible gives you free ebooks every once in a while. And I got the ebook just to be like, well, listen to it maybe instead. So I just listened to Grant Morrison's Super Gods, the audiobook version of it, which actually like, it's kind of half autobiography, half sort of a study of the history of comics. Um, and, it was very eye-opening. There's a lot of stuff that I didn't realize. I mean, I'm a huge Grant Morrison fan, so it was cool to get all the stuff about his personal life in there, as well as what was going on when he was writing these comics, but also like the deep dives of some of these characters. And there's things that he brought up that I've never heard of before, that I think is really unique. And it's always fun when you read or you're deep into comics to like have something come up that's new because he feels like it's all been done or it's all the information's out there. One of the things I found most interesting was I think it was when they did Image, like when all the guys jumped and started Image Comics, how they all took the book that they were most famous for writing for the other people, and they named their books very close to them alphabetically, so they would sit on the shelf beside where the comics were. So like Spawn was really close to Spider-Man, was McFarlane was doing. Wildcats is very close to X-Men. Youngblood was very close to X-Force. Like all these ones about where they went, and I never even thought of it that way before. It was like, what a smart marketing idea, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Yeah. So, well, that's cool. So, is this just like a straightforward analysis of the superhero evolution?
It's no, it's not quite. It's more like it has some historical parts
Hmm.
on comics. My take on that. It has some case studies on superheroes, but it's more like a uh, an analysis of how kind of like, okay, we made a comic book, now what are we going to do with it? How it
Mm.
impacts how comic books impact the world, how they evolve,
Oh, cool.
what's needed like to make a comic book, like what it goes in, like kind of like a little bit of technical, a little bit of
Hmm.
educational, a little bit of analytical. So it's a mixture, and I wanted to make like an overall kind of like theoretical approach to what comics could be and what aren't could be, and why they could be more serious than than something else. So and how they play in the culture and art, and what they do, and how they play in comparison to literary stuff, to movies, to games. So it's
Yeah,
a it's like a I have like 8 chapters, so it's a solid amount of
that's
work.
awesome. Well,
Yeah,
they've never been more relevant now, than they
yeah,
ever have been, really, as far as like how much of an impact they have on the culture. But also, just like I had this conversation with a friend yesterday about the new Superman movie. So I loved it. I really, really loved it, and I was saying how it, like, instead of just writing like a movie that's like about Superman, which they did, they found a way to kind of make it relevant to what's going on in our world when it comes to like social media stuff, like uh, oligarchs and technocrats and all these things, really, and how, as we get further away from being kind and empathetic towards each other, it seems, when it comes to these sort of things. A character like Superman, who's supposed to represent that, is more important now than ever. So the idea that, like, it
yeah.
really they use to shine a light on the problems, and also maybe the parts of ourselves we need to work on and elevate, and celebrate amongst one another to sort of create a kinder world, hopefully. So movies like using superheroes to draw attention to those subjects, and also make the people watching it hopefully be a little introspective and be like, yeah, maybe I should think about things in a different way. And the fact that, like, even comics are doing that now, besides from just reading a comic, but in such a bigger way, is kind of mind bending to me. It's insane.
But, but yeah, I mean, Superman, especially this Superman, it's like he's like the worldwide icon.
Mm,
So it's not like other superheroes. He's like he stands out a lot than any other superhero.
mm,
So what he can do, no other superhero cannot do.
mm,
Batman cannot make an impact in the world like Superman does. He can make an impact on a different level. For example, Batman is the underground guy. When you go on a demonstration, you're
mm,
gonna see somebody, you know, kept as Batman going, defending for justice, or as Jedi, or that kind of stuff. But Superman has a different role in the superhero canon and genre and world as well, especially now, and especially in 10 years when it gets into public domain.
mm. Oh, right, yeah.
So, I think they did a good job. I think some things could have been done a little better. Some things could have been avoided.
Mm.
But everybody has their own peaks
Oh,
when
of
it comes
course.
to Superman. But I think that Nicholas Hoult did an excellent job of portraying Lex Luthor. I mean, it was
Yeah.
never easier to hate on a supervillain than like every panel, like he was like that, like he was
Well,
like
this is what I said to my friend. I said he's sort of like. I mean, I really liked David Cornsweet,
course, but
as
yeah,
yeah, as Superman. I really liked the way he approached it. I liked that it was fun. It was hopeful, bright, colorful. The world was lived in. We didn't have to spend a lot of time going over the same stuff. I
yeah,
even liked the subtle change they made towards his parents and how that connected to everything. But Luther. I said to my friend who hadn't seen it yet. I said Luther's almost like the worst or the best of the worst of us. Like the word, like he literally it has everything. And like I've always said, the versions that I like the most of Superman, like that's what I saw. It was basically All-Star Superman. That's what I saw. The version of Luthor that I really think is the best is the All-Star Superman one, the one that like can achieve anything, but is so human that he's so petty and so jealous that like that he's like so human that he just ruins any ability he has to sort of make things better because he just can't get over this petty jealousy. And I think they do a really good job of hammering that part home, especially with when
Yeah.
Holt was excellent in. But even like Crypto, like I loved it all. He's fighting giant monsters. Is
Yeah.
the bright, fun lived in world Metamorpho was great. Like I liked it all. It was just
It
I
was a really nice take.
yeah, yeah. And even like the way they, and even like I know like it's kind of become like a talking point in like right-wing media to make it like it's an immigrant story, which Superman always was. But like you could read so deep into all these other things. I was the one thing I thought was quite surprising was, did you ever see the movie Triangle of Sadness? It was a Swedish movie.
No, no.
No. So the guy that played like the president of the other country in the movie, he is pretty prominent in that movie, and I never thought I'd see that actor in anything ever again, but especially Superman movie. So it was pretty fun. But yeah, I really dug it. I think it was, but yeah, like the idea of exploring that in your book, or even going through the how culturally significant it has been, and drawing those parallels would be very. I'm excited to read it. That sounds really cool.
Well, hopefully, I think I'm not sure if it's gonna happen next year, but I think like 2027 is probably gonna be because I'm writing it in Serbian because I have to do a university laws and country laws and European
Hmm.
laws. I have to write it in a mother language, but then
Hmm.
once I defend my thesis, I can translate and I can publish it internationally, which I do plan to do.
Oh,
So
that's awesome. Well,
I'll
please.
I'll just have to, I'll just have to see uh, how I'm gonna do that. Like it's either gonna be some publisher or maybe university or something. But
Mhm.
yeah, and it's interesting because I am an artist, so I can give that insight from the academic perspective, from the art perspective, because the majority of those books that I use, there's resources and that are written on comics were just written from the perspective of theorists and academics, not by artists.
Mm. Yeah, that's true. I was thinking like also as someone, as the European lens too, and someone that grew up with it, that not deep within it, like as it was done over
Yeah.
there, would bring an interesting to that as well. But you're right, the artist and also since you do write, you do draw, you do color, you can kind of all those facets as well. You can kind of
Yeah.
explore through how that's connected. So that's really
Yeah,
cool.
it's
So
it's interesting when you know, okay, this is the problematics with drawing, this is the problematics with writing, this is a problem, of a format of a genre,
mhm,
and then you kind of like put a spin on it on a reflective lens of, methodology from university and theories of the, social sciences and arts and humanities.
mm,
So I think it's going to be an interesting book.
yeah.
Hopefully, I mean, it was a super fun and super super hard and sometimes frustrating research for me,
Mm.
but that's part of the work. I mean, you cannot when you make art, you have to go through sweating as well. So
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's funny. People think it's
yeah.
artists. It's an easy job, but there's a lot of facets to it that you don't take into account. So
But it's definitely, I think it's going to be a good book, and I think it's going to be one of those projects that's going to outlive me
awesome.
longer.
Yeah, it
So
sounds like
here we go.
something that I definitely feel like you think about the future of comics and studying comics and the academia of it all. When there's eventually I'm sure there'll be university courses, PhDs in this sort of this world, right? Like just art specifically related to comics in the medium. And I'm sure your book will be up there too. So that's really cool.
Probably,
Awesome.
but when we look like the history of comics for the past 130 years, I mean, like
Hmm.
for the past 100 years, we were mostly making, producing, creating, and discovering. You were discovering publishers, we were discovering characters,
Hmm.
universes, people were building. But now majority of those things were built. Like
Hmm.
even, when the image guys in the 90s came and they like created image comics and opened the door for like all of us,
Hmm.
to continue doing creator own and then even through the Marvel universe now and DC universe. So everything is like opened up and majority of stuff has been built, but now we are getting to see the effects of it, so we can do the reflection of it.
Hmm.
And that in that part of reflection, that comes from academia, from theoretical, from blogging, from podcasting, from all of that material. Like that's how we can figure out what actually comic books and comic book culture is, because no one was really sure what it was for in the 20th century. Like,
Hmm.
was it for kids? Was it damaging? Was it cool? Was it not cool? Was it serious? Was it high art? Was it low art?
Hmm.
What was it like? Everybody tried to pinpoint comic books somewhere because it was a fresh new medium, but it is a medium for itself. It has its own culture, it has its own methodology, it has its own rules, and we can analyze that and like show it to people. Okay, this is what comic book culture is because of this, and this, because we
Hmm.
have like a 130 years of produced material.
Yeah.
So that's mostly the thing which scholars are doing, and I think it's going to be relevant. It's how it's going to impact comics in the future
Yeah. Very
for
cool.
the future generations. I mean,
Yeah.
they won't have to invent that kind of stuff. They'll probably have to invent something else, but they have the schools. I mean, if you want to learn comics, you can check Kirby, you can check Mobius, you can check Buscema, you can check like Frazetta, like you can check 50 biggest creators, and figure out what style, what leans to you. Like same as when you go to university and you gravitate towards some theories or some you know uh, topics or something.
Hmm.
Same way as an artist, you can gravitate towards some styles and what was your sensibility, and you can figure that out and grow out of it. Your own stuff that
Yeah.
somebody else like 10, 20, 30 years down the road is going to do the same thing as you did.
Yeah. It's kind of like it all adds to the soil, right? You get to grow something new
Yeah.
out of it. So, oh, very
Mm,
cool.
it's a different perspective. 50 years ago, you had not there wasn't so many like content. So basically, creators were like inventing their stuff. So
Hmm.
some of that stuff is pretty basic, but because it was the first step.
Yeah.
So they had nothing, so they had to invent out of thin air. So when you do that, it's just like a basic stuff. Nowadays, you have that basic stuff. So when you invent, you can invent advanced stuff out
Yeah.
of it. But you have more. So it's kind of like a reverse play.
Yeah.
They had, but then again, like if you want to make it as an artist today, it's much more difficult to make yourself a brand,
Hmm.
or like a big artist or whatever, because you will always be in the shadow of the big guys from the
Oh, yeah.
20th century.
Yeah.
But you have something else that they didn't. So
Yeah. Well,
so
that's it, right?
that's
The people, the
yeah,
innovators, right? So they're the ones that are always
yeah,
remembered because they're the first. But then you kind of those that come later, you're sort of building on what they built. But then it's like when I talked about this the other day when I watched like a movie that you haven't seen, like say you go back and watch The Exorcist, and then you show it to a kid now, and the kid will be like, "Well, I've seen a lot of these things before," and it's like, "Well, no, you have, but they came later. Like this movie did it first. So like literally, it seems like derivative to you, but that's because the things you watched were, like not this.
yeah.
So it's like
They
that with comics
didn't
too.
get the original first. Yeah,
Exactly, yeah. It's because you weren't around for it, so you've just seen sort of what sprung from it, but not the original thing. And it's so nuanced, right? Like comics have so much, so different, and so much different style, and so much different stories, comics, content, everything that like, there's so much to mine there. So I'm
yeah.
excited. It sounds like a cool book. Well, please let me know when it's out. I'd definitely like to read it. I could throw it through Google Translate if it's not ready. It's not ready for the North American public, or I'll brush up on
Well,
my
I
Serbian.
I can send you some. I have a few research papers that I did that are on English. One is
Cool.
on coloring, one is on the aesthetics of taste, which I presented now in Brussels on the actual academic conference on comics.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, that was a 20-minute paperwork.
Wow,
I have it like in a PDF.
cool. Yeah,
It's
no,
not
please
long. It's
do.
like 2,000 words. I'll send you.
Oh, please, that'd be awesome. I'd love to read it.
So
Um,
that's it. I mean, I have like I did a piece on Joker for one anthology as well. So I have some of the English, yeah, some of the
cool,
few paperworks that can be read as
awesome.
academic studies that are free of for uh,
Yeah,
for read and digesting. So yeah, I'll send
beautiful.
I'll send
Oh,
over.
thanks, I appreciate it. But yeah, thanks, Vladimir, for being on the show. This is awesome. It's great chatting with you.
Thank you. So sorry again that
Oh.
I was a bit late.
No, don't worry about it at all. Believe me, I'm just happy you could make it.
Okay.
All right, have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was a
Oh,
great chat.
anytime at all. All
We
right,
could definitely do some comeback in a next season or something.
sounds good. When the book's out, let me know. We can chat about it.
All right.
All right,
Okay.
have a good day.
Talk to you soon. Bye
Bye.
bye.
What a cool guy, that Vladimir Popov. Great creator, amazing colorist, and man, that whole stuff with the Ph.D., the thesis, the book that's going to be about the history of the North American superhero. So cool. I'm very excited to read that book. I'm looking forward to reading some of the writing he has available when it's available for me to read, because I'm sure it's great. I love historical, stuff about comics, the history of comics. I kind of eat that stuff up. So anybody bringing new stuff like that to the world, count me in. I'm there. I want to see it. I want to read it. I want to know more about it. But in the meantime, you're going to have to wait for another week to learn more about this story in this show and what we're going to be doing here, because I don't have the next one recorded at the time of recording this. I believe I know who it's going to be, but you never know. Sometimes people cancel. Sometimes things happen. Life happens, and sometimes you got to step back and reassess. So as far as things go, should be a great conversation coming up in 1 week's time, assuming it's who it's going to be. Once that's confirmed, I'll let you know on the socials. But in the meantime, stay safe, have fun, read some comics, and subscribe to us on YouTube, because you can hear the episodes there. Maybe eventually I'll get to put more video on. Who knows? The world's our oyster. But enjoy your summer, read some comics, have fun, stay safe, and get outside under a tree and read a comic, read a book, read something. Just do it under a tree. It's got to be a tree. The Graphic Histories Podcast is a proud partner of the United Federation of Podcasts.